everyone at the SMPS Build Business Conference. My name is Drew Dudley, and I actually have a really cool job. I get to travel around the world and explore with people what leadership means to them, what it means to their organizations, and what it means to their communities. And what I've discovered in my work is that the vast majority of people actually aren't very comfortable with calling themselves a leader. They have no problem recognizing that what they do is important, that they take great pride in what they do, but to actually step up and say, I am a leader, is something that most people feel a great deal of discomfort doing. And I think what it is that when people evaluate themselves as leaders, and really as human beings, what we do is we put a tremendous amount of focus on the extraordinary days in our lives. And I say extraordinary days are days where things happen that don't usually happen. And there are extraordinary days in our lives. There's positive extraordinary, where we get the job, we get promoted, we accomplish something significant. And I think there's also negative extraordinary, where we fail as an individual or as an organization, where we don't get something that we truly feel that we deserve, or where we hurt or are hurt by someone that we care about. And I don't deny that we can learn a lot about ourselves and about each other in these extraordinary days. But I think it's important to never lose sight of the fact that the extraordinary days in our lives, they are always going to be outnumbered by the everydays in our lives. And the nature and the frequency of the extraordinary in our lives and in our organizations is really determined by how we choose to behave on a day-to-day basis. I've always thought that leadership is making one big decision to make a series of positive, consistent, small decisions. And I was really lucky to share a story that opened my eyes to the fact that leadership fundamentally is about creating moments of powerful interpersonal interaction on a daily basis. Moments where we let people know that they have mattered, or that they do matter, or that they will matter one day. And the great thing about looking at leadership as creating those moments of interpersonal impact is that creating those moments is within all of our grasp. And it's within all of our grasp on a daily basis. And I got to share a story on TED about that. And people started to send me their stories of moments where people let them know that they had had a much bigger impact than they ever thought they did. They thought that, you know what, I was just doing my job. I was just trying to do my best. And they started to realize that what they thought of as just doing something was actually profoundly important. And I want to share one of those stories with you. This isn't my story. Someone else told it to me, but I asked them, can I share it with other people, because I love the message that it spreads. And he said, sure. So this is his story, and he said, I grew up on a small farm in Illinois, and then I went to a tiny liberal arts college, also in a really rural area. So I never actually lived in a city until I got my first job, and that was in Chicago. And what that meant is that I never actually saw a homeless person until the first day I was driving to work in Chicago. And he goes, I pull up to the intersection, I see my first homeless man, and the thing is, he wasn't just sitting there hoping people gave him change. What he was doing is he was walking out into the street at red lights, and he had a coffee cup, and he was making eye contact with people, trying to get them to give him money. And I don't know the social etiquette about how to deal with this. So I actually panicked because I thought he would get upset because I had no money with me. So I looked in the center console, I was looking behind the passenger seat, I'm tearing the car apart, trying to find any money at all for this guy. And when I finally sit up and realize I don't have any, there's the homeless man looking really amused at me. And he goes, hey, new guy, don't worry about it. Simmer down. If you don't have any money, you just tell me and I move on. But I can tell you're new here. So let me tell you this. Don't let this city beat you down. If it hasn't beaten me yet, and it never will, you can't let it beat you, okay? And I was so thrown off by this. The guy says, I said, yes, sir. And he says, the homeless man goes, sir, nice, okay. And he walks off. And he goes, the next day I pull up to the intersection, but I brought money with me this time because I don't want to go through the same thing again. And he says, the homeless guy sees me and he goes, new guy, city beat you down yet? And I said, no, sir, you? And he goes, I told you, never. And he took my money, he wished me a good day, and he walked off. And he says, this actually became our song and dance. I discovered his name was Larry, and every single day the same thing would happen. He'd see me and he'd go, hey, new guy, city beat you down yet? And I go, no, Larry, you? And he'd say, I told you, never. He'd take my dollar and he'd walk off. And I go, this goes on for about a year. Then one day, about a year after I meet Larry, I pull up to the intersection. It's a really nice day, so I've already got the window down. I've got the money hanging out the window. And Larry walks up to me and he says, new guy, look, hundreds of people drive by me every day and they won't even make eye contact. You have given me money every single day that I've seen you since I met you. You know what? You've done your share. Keep your money today, all right? We'll pick it up tomorrow. And the guy says, look, I don't know why, but I reached in my wallet, I pulled out everything that I had. It was about 60 bucks. And I held it out to him and I said, or how about I do their share today? And he said it was weird because he didn't take the money right away. What he did is he actually stared at it for a long time, and then at me, and then back at the money, and eventually just before the light turns green, he takes the money, nods, doesn't say anything, and walks off. And he says for 2 more years this goes on every single day. Hey, new guy, city beat you down yet? Nah, Larry, you? I told you. Never. And he'd take the money. About 2 years after that happened with the 60 bucks I gave him, about 3 years after I met him, I pull up to the intersection, except I'm not going to work this time. I'm actually on a 3rd date with this girl. And Larry comes over and I think, oh man, like I love this guy, but I have no idea what my date is going to think about my homeless friend. And he says, Larry pretty much ignores me. He leans in the driver's seat right across my face and just looks at the girl in the passenger seat and goes, hey, I'm Larry. Then he points at me and says, I don't know if this guy is the only person on earth who knows my name, but he is the only person who has asked for it for the last 3.5 years. You know what? But I'll tell you something. In the 3 years since I met him, scared out of his mind at this intersection, he's given me $1,512.86. One day he gave me 60 bucks, and it made me feel like I had a friend and I wasn't just a charity case. I want to tell you something. You're in the car with a very special man. Don't screw it up. And he walks off. And the guy says, my wife told me on the night that I asked her to marry me that that was the moment where she knew she was going to say yes. And I love that story because what that guy was doing every day was giving $1 or $1.50, the thing that we just do, the thing that we consider our job, the thing that we often diminish. Well, yeah, I know that I'm doing something and it's important, but ultimately it's just a little bit in the grander scheme of things. But that guy kept track of every single cent that he passed on. And I think it is so important to remember that what we are putting out in the world is messages. What we are putting out in the world is potential for impact. And everything that we do each day, we have absolutely no idea how it's going to land. It may just be the job that we are, but in so many cases, as you guys are saying, it goes beyond that. And we don't know what it is. But I think that if we consciously decide to add value like that into the world on a daily basis and recognize that what we do professionally matters to someone out there and can change the nature of their day, and that we have absolutely no idea how it's accumulating in someone's life, I think that's a reminder of how much opportunity there is on a daily basis to lead by having impact, to create those moments of interpersonal impact. For me, I think our lives and leadership are about 2 fundamental questions. What is my dollar and who is my Larry? And I think that if we ask ourselves each day, what is my dollar and who is my Larry? I think what we end up is going beyond just doing our job every day and recognizing that what we do has an opportunity for impact. And every time that we have a positive impact, what we are fundamentally doing is leading. And what that does, it makes leadership something that not only we are capable of every day, but that honestly we should commit to every day. Thank you so much for letting me share this message with you, and I hope that you have an amazing conference. All the very best.